Okay, welcome everyone. For our LinkedIn Live, I'm going to introduce our topic, I'm going to introduce our guests, then we're going to get into our conversation. So today's session, hiring your first sales professional pro, guide for founders. This is going to be an interesting one. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm a strategic coach. I work with companies on strategy and helping them with exits. This is going to be a fun one for me, having been a founder, having hired and fired several salespeople. There's lots of stories here that I'm excited to share. Let me introduce our two guests. First up, we got Caryn Kopp. Caryn is founder and chief door opener at Kopp Consulting. She has over 25 years of experience helping businesses open doors to high-value clients. She's an expert in sales messaging and strategy. And they're best known for their door opening service, where senior level business developers land prospects for their clients. And she's also author of Biz Dev Done Right. And I'm excited for this. She's going to bring a lot into the conversation for hiring effective sales experts, developing effective sales strategies. So with that, Caryn, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yes. And next up, Kathleen Quinn Votaw. She is author, speaker, founder of Talent Trust. She's a leading expert in recruiting, relating, retaining, and releasing people, as well as building a community, her community for over 3 decades. She's a very people-centric approach, and for helping companies transform and attract, hire, retain top talent, and achieve growth. With that, Kathleen, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited about our discussion.
Yeah. So before we get into it, just a few things for the audience. So if you're on LinkedIn and you want to leave a question or a comment, go ahead and do that. We'll be watching the comments box as we go. We'll try to incorporate those as we see them. We're also publishing on YouTube, streaming on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, go over to LinkedIn to leave comments. I'm not going to be watching the YouTube live. So jump over to LinkedIn and put comments there. If you're watching the replays on either LinkedIn or on YouTube, go ahead and put comments, questions into onto those pages. We'll be monitoring those in the coming days and weeks. So we'll get to questions as we go. So even if you're on the replay, go ahead and watch those. So with that, let's get into the discussion. I'd love to hear from both of you, and we can start with Kathleen and then go to Caryn. What are some like the biggest common mistakes that you see founders make when trying to hire, bring in real kind of sales talent? Let's start there, and then we can get to some of the underlying reasons from there. Kathleen, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. The first time they try to bring in sales talent, they're trying to replace themselves. And so that has a lot of, imagine the head trash, you're an entrepreneur, you've sold it, you've brought it in, you've nurtured it, you've serviced it. And then you get to a point where you have to bring someone in to attract the revenue. Well, you're really evaluating them against yourself, and that can be a dangerous thing. So I see that being a real issue. The second thing is the job descriptions are boring. I mean, we're in the attraction phase. It's like dating. You got to attract people. Don't be so boring about, I want you to do this, 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 this. And then third, they think they need no development or training whatsoever. But they do need a lot, even the most seasoned person, and I'm interested in what Caryn has to say, does need to understand how you do it, why you do it the way you do it, and what's different about your approach. So this assumption that there's no development regardless of the human is kind of strange.
Yeah. Caryn, your take on this?
Yeah, those are great points, Kathleen, as always. I think what happens a lot of times when the founder is ready to bring on their first sales hire, they have grown through friends and family and sometimes a little bit of luck, and they've grown by accident. Now they need to grow on purpose, and they don't know what on purpose looks like. So if you haven't identified truly what your strategy is in terms of growing on purpose, you are going to need to hire a strategist, a seller who is also a strategist who could figure it out. And that comes to a lot of mishires because the person that they hire, especially if it's a low-level person, may not be a strategist and may be ill-equipped to be able to figure it out, which kind of goes to Kathleen's onboarding issue, right? Because if you don't know what your strategy is for sales that you've never gotten before, how on earth can you onboard somebody who can't figure it out? So that's one thing. Another thing is there is a big blind spot when it comes to hiring salespeople whose job it is to get the door open with new prospects, of course, because that's where we live, right? Not all great sales hunters are great door openers. And that's a real blind spot. This is a very different kind of person who can get the door open versus the hunter who's really great at going on the meeting or being on the meeting and getting it to a closed sale. Another mistake that people make is when they go to hire a salesperson who has a Rolodex.
I was going to ask this one.
A group of people that they're connected with, because they may not be the right people that this salesperson knows. So you hire the salesperson because they know people, but you didn't ask which people. And so therefore now you have somebody who might be able to get you in at the lower level. But if you need to get in at the executive level, you may not be able to swim upstream. You may want to start high. Our philosophy is a top-down approach. And so that's really important if you are hiring somebody like that, to really ask who their contacts are, especially if companies are going to hire somebody from the market leader. That's another mistake that people make, because those contacts may not have been established by the person you hire, and they have no ability to move them over to your business. And the last thing is setting unrealistic goals, because there's nothing more demotivating for a salesperson to not be able to get the goals, to achieve the goals, because the goals you set were never achievable to begin with, and you couldn't do them either.
Let's take this from a founder point of view. How should a founder kind of assess their situation and figure out kind of what do they know, what do they not know? I really resonated with this thing of, well, who I'm hiring, I might not know who I need to hire. Right. And so I'm, we're successful as a company to some extent. I'm looking to grow and scale. I realize sales, I'm probably looking at the beginning as sales capacity. It really ends up becoming sales strategy and sales leadership. But I may not know as a founder, like what that looks like and who I need to hire. Like how do I kind of self-diagnose or self-assess? And then how do I interview, or how do I look for sales talent that might actually need to tell me what I need? Like how do you kind of solve that conundrum? And I don't know if either of you want to jump on that one first, but.
Well, one of the things we do, I think that's a great question, is we go in, because sometimes you can't diagnose your own issue. You have to go to the doctor to be diagnosed for what's wrong with me, right? From a medical perspective. So we suggest at Talent Trust that you work with a recruiter of some kind who can help you diagnose what you do need. So Caryn said it really well. There are different types of salespeople. So do you need someone to come and follow up after you? Or is there a lead generation type of methodology? Is this somebody who's developing something from cold leads or warm leads? Is it account management? So really dissecting what is the expectation of the person you're going to hire or select for your company, and what are the outcomes you want from that person. So we really look at outcomes, and we build it all the way back, because sales is a big area in a company, but is it marketing? Is it lead generation? Is it making the outbound appointment setting? Is it, Caryn's firm does this really well, and our firm complements, where who is the person and Caryn is the how, right? So I think most founders, when they start developing this mindset to bring in another person, they need to sit with an expert, at least for a little while, to understand how to build that segment of their company to get to the outcome they want.
Yeah. Caryn, thoughts on that?
I would throw in a timing element of that too, is to identify, what do you need to accomplish, as Kathleen said, in the next 6 months? Don't go
Okay.
2 years out. What is it that you need to accomplish in the next 6 months so you know where to focus? So if you think about 3 areas, do I need to get in more prospect doors for more meetings?
Mm-hmm.
Do I need that? Or the second one is, do I have lots of, not just prospect doors, let's say the right prospect doors open, and you have a lot of opportunities in progress and you need to get them closed? Or have you closed a lot of sales with the exact right prospects? Now they're the exact right clients, but there's lots of opportunity in your client base that you're not capturing. And you need to capture more opportunity with the human that you're working with currently, as well as additional humans at that same organization. Which one do you need most in the next 6 months? Because that will tell you the kind of person you need to hire. Not every great sales hunter is a great door opener. If you need to get those doors open, you need somebody who's a door opener. If your philosophy is, I think everybody should be able to open the door through close a sale, you need to think again, because not everybody has that talent.
Yeah. Yeah. I always found the beginning of these businesses, everyone's just chasing revenues, right? And it's just like, how do I get revenue in the door? And then it starts to become a little more strategic. And then it's like, okay, we need to actually start saying no to a bunch of things if we're really going to scale this.
Right.
I'm curious, as a founder, or how a founder should kind of assess their own kind of sales capabilities and figure out where do they want to continue to play on the field and where they need to give things up. Like I think I personally found, like, I was really good at closing deals. Like, if I got in front of the right prospect, I could have the right conversations around really kind of understanding their needs and creating insight and showing how we could create value.
Yeah.
But I hated doing, early meetings, right? Prospecting meetings and things like that.
We really appreciate people like you, because that's what's kept us in business for 25 years.
But it took me a while. And then it took me a while to figure out, oh, that's what I need. I need someone to open doors. I don't actually need someone to sell. Right. Like I can go from 5 million to 15 million. If I can just find people to open doors, I can sell enough business to get us to that next level. I called it the rock star strategy, right? Like, I needed a group that could set things up and then kind of bring me on. I would do my thing. I would close the deal and then I would go off to the next one. But it took a while to kind of figure that out. And I realized not every founder was like that. Some founders are really great at some founders are suck at all of them, but like, it's figuring out where you do. How would you advise, or how do you work with founders to help figure out where they should stay involved in the sales process and where they really need to kind of get out of the process?
Well, I'll jump in and just say that where are you best? That only you can do this at this point in time. Like, for example, what the situation that you brought up, Bruce, is that you may need to hire an outsourced company like ours to take that over, and you were getting in the C-suite, right? Executive level decision makers. That doesn't describe every appointment setting firm, but it does describe ours because we hire only senior level people. So you can hire us to get the doors open for you. You can knock it out of the park on the first meeting. So your first sales hire may be the person who's doing the follow-up and selling more to current clients. And that is a certain kind of person. We have a client right now. We've gotten him 40 meetings. He's got 30 million in the pipeline. He's closed 6 deals, but he's having trouble now with the follow-up. And now he's looking to hire somebody. That person would be best served as the person who does all that follow-up, so we could stay in our lane of continuing to feed more new meetings. Kathleen, what do you think?
Yeah.
Well, I think you're both on, know thyself is the first part of the formula. And, you can think you're good at something, but how do you know you're good at something? We help companies with assessments, and we use an assessment called Preview, and we bundle it into our recruiting services so people can't hide from where they really have the skill. We've all met salespeople who masquerade as salespeople, right? Yeah. And and they pretend that they love outbound call, or they love meeting with people, or they love networking. Well, they can't run or hide from a good assessment tool where you can dig into and probe really where they find joy in the sales process. Because then you, as the founder, can focus on what you find joy in, and then the teaming of those two things are unstoppable.
Yeah. So say you've done that assessment, say you've identified what you need to hire, and you're going out to kind of find those. Because look, what are some strategies that founders can use to actually find sales talent, sales capabilities, sales experience? Like what are things that actually lead to successful talent in terms of bringing them on and actually helping the company? Thoughts on, yeah.
I can take that one.
Go for it.
We defined a whole process called recruitment is a sales process. And first, Bruce, you start with, who are you? Like, what's your company? What's your brand? What do you stand for? You have to have some kind of digital footprint so people can find you and be inspired by what you're doing. Then you have to fill the top of the pipeline, just like in, selling your products and services to companies. You need to build a pipeline of high value candidates that can sell your products and services. So that's the second stage. Third, you have to keep engaged with them. We call that candidate engagement. Mm-hmm. And then you get into assessing these people and screening these people, interviewing them, and finally hiring them. Here's where the magic happens. It's the pipeline. If you don't have the pipeline of people and you stop recruiting, that's where you're going to fail. Mm-hmm. Because we tend to hire in crisis. I hit $1 million, I hit $2 million, I hit $10 million. And then suddenly, in the next 90 days, I need to find somebody who's going to fit me, my company, my culture, my community, my values. So we never stop cultivating for the people who buy our products and services. Why do we stop cultivating for the people who have to sell our services? So it's a whole formula if you choose to follow it.
Yeah.
Well, I find, sadly, just like the sales pipeline and the recruiting pipeline, that when people feel that they have what they need, they take their eye off the top of the sales funnel. Right. They might be doing the marketing funnel, but that's not the sales funnel.
Yeah. Right.
Now, I've run this business for a really long time. We hire the kind of salesperson who is the most common form of sales mishire, and the ones that are hardest to find, these senior level business developers who have the DNA and the desire to do the door opening work when most people would rather put a stick in their eye than do this job. My firm philosophy is I won't sacrifice quality for growth. So in order to do that, I have to do exactly what Kathleen said. We are constantly recruiting, and I have a bench philosophy. Mm-hmm. We have 5, sometimes 10 door openers who have already been identified. Mm-hmm. They are on the payroll. They are going through our onboarding process before we have the need for them. Now, they may not stick around for the time that we have the client whose job they're going to work on. That's okay, because we have others who are on the bench. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, if we have accelerated new client acquisition, I'm not scrambling to put the wrong person in the door opening role for a client of ours. We have a smooth transition right onto the client's project. We also use our onboarding process as an extension of our recruiting process. Kathleen, I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts about this, but not everybody makes it through our onboarding process. Mm-hmm. There's tests along the way. The person who's a really great door opener is maniacally methodical. It will hurt them physically to skip over a prospect who's next. And so not every salesperson is like that. And if they want the job, they're going to tell you what you want to hear. And we have to be the ones to figure out, you know what, you're saying all the right things, you're not doing all the right things, and therefore it's not working. Before we put them on our client's program, we have to figure that out. So the onboarding process is an extension of our recruiting process.
Oh, you're so right, Caryn. I'll jump in, Bruce.
Yeah, good.
Onboarding, most people have a orientation plan, like it's a week or two. Nice to meet you. Here's your desk. Here's
where the bathroom is.
Here's the water bottle. Here's the bathroom. Good luck. See you later. Slap them on the back and say, have a good time. Mm-hmm. The best practice is a well thought out, really well executed 6-month minimum onboarding assimilation plan. And on our website, talenttrust.com, we have a free download, do it yourself, how to execute an onboarding for any position in your company, but sales in particular, we've got to set really clear expectations and monitor those almost daily to make sure they're successful. The mindset of good onboarding is to set the person up for success.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not being successful in your company, that's okay. You're still setting the human up for success. Wouldn't you rather fail faster than have to carry somebody for years because you didn't set the right expectations?
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to comment or follow up on one of Karen's things, the talent thing. I think it's one of the things I put on all the CEOs that I coach. It's on their scorecard is I take all of their key functional heads and I want to make sure they've got 3 identified people who could take over that role if need be.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't give me 3 possible candidates, like it might be a stretch, but like we can figure out how to make it work. That's a risk, right? They don't have good talent, a bench on their talent plan.
Right.
And particularly as a company's growing, like people are going to phase out, right? Like they're either not going to be able to keep up with the growth or they're going to, not align with where the company's going. And you've got to have that depth. And it's critically important on the sales thing.
The other thing that's really important, I'm going to jump in on this one, is the timeline, because it takes time for this sales hire if you're doing it right and you're onboarding them properly and all of that. And as the founder has to do this part of the job, who's watching the top of the sales funnel?
Right.
So that's another area where somebody can outsource the door opening part of sales to keep the opportunities continually coming in so that the founder can get the new salesperson ready and make sure that they're doing all the right things.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a question. I ran into this early in my career was that one of the biggest challenges I find about hiring salespeople is salespeople are really good at interviewing.
Yes.
And it's kind of this like, oh, like, okay, like, am I just being sold or is this really a good, like, how do you actually assess a candidate for a sales position effectively and kind of get through, like I said, these people are good at sales. They're good at kind of figuring out your problem and, positioning themselves. And like, what are some techniques or processes? And maybe it's the onboarding process, but like, how do you break through that?
Yeah, it's part of it. We designed a course called Precision Interviewing to help people with this exact issue. And remember, we're selecting people to join our company. So we have to be very methodical in how we do that. So there's 7 steps to precision interviewing. The first is making sure you're consistent. Consistency is key. And then the one I love the most in the 7 steps is probing. People can always give you a good answer with the first question.
Yeah.
And we love to teach behavioral-based interviewing questions. And so digging into the why behind the first answer. Tell me more about that. Help me explain what you did. How did you do that? How did you come to achieve that? So I don't understand the expectation there. So probing into it and following a formula for how you listen to their answers, because so many people, as you said, Bruce, they're persuasive. Salespeople are persuasive.
Yeah.
So we use the STAR law methodology. What's the situation or task that they were in? What action did they take? What result happened for the team, the company, et cetera? And then my little, cayenne pepper I throw in there. What did they learn and how did they apply it?
Okay.
So it's a really good formula to listen to the behavioral-based interview questions you're asking. But so many of us as founders, we think we know how to select people because we've gotten to this level of our career.
Yeah.
But it's slowing down to train yourself on how to select. So those are a couple tips that people could take away.
Yeah. And I see there's a comment for the access or the link to the website. Make sure that you put it into the comments on LinkedIn after the program. We'll make sure people
will
get that.
do. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
I have a couple of things to add to that, especially as it relates to hiring the kinds of people who are going to do the door opening for you for getting the first meeting, because that is the only kind of person that we're hiring. We hire, as I said, experience plus DNA and desire. So one of the questions that you can ask in the interviewing process for a door opener is, tell me a time that you had to create an entirely new territory from scratch. You had no prior relationships. What did you do first, second, third? What worked? What didn't work? What were some of the challenges that you faced? If they've done this before and they've worked a prospect list recently, and here's this is a big deal about recently, because door opening has changed. Before the pandemic is different than during the pandemic is different from 2 years after the pandemic. And it's different now because all of the market changes that are going on have changed the way door opening is done. So you want to find out, if you're looking for an experienced person, you want to find out what they know about what is working now, not what worked 10 years ago, what's working now. And they should be able to tell you like this, exactly what they did. If they look like they're making it up, they probably are, and they're not that experienced. Now, you may say, okay, well, what happens if I'm hiring somebody who is new at this and they've never done it before? No problem. Ask them to think it through. What would you do in that situation? First, second, third. If a candidate is coming in looking for you to give them leads and you don't have any leads to give them, that person is going to pole vault over furniture to get away from your job because they don't want to do this part of the job. One of the other things that we do is role play interview. We want to put them in that situation. You're calling a prospect. Okay, the prospect says this, and we tell them, just bring the prospect that you were working on last. Bring that company. I'm not asking you to learn new messaging or anything. Just bring that situation. And then we put them through the role play. And I want to hear people going like this, getting that meeting, weaving their way through that conversation that is all of a minute and a half and you don't get another chance. I want to see them weave their way through that conversation and land that meeting. And if they can't do that, they can't be on our team.
Yeah.
That's so great. That's called work product. Work product interview.
Demonstrated.
To make sure that, show me the money, Jerry Maguire. Do you have jobs to do this? Love it.
Yeah. I think we're going to squeeze in one more question here to kind of wrap things up. So say you've made your hire, you're, a couple months into the process. How do you, I guess, manage or monitor performance, and when do you decide that something might not be working out? Like, what are some questions or things that you think about as a founder when working with sales talent? And how do you kind of evaluate performance? And then ultimately, what are some things that you look out for saying, hey, this may not be working out long term? Caryn, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go to Kathleen.
So I've been talking a lot about sales effectiveness metrics lately, and to make sure that your sales strategy is working. If you need this person to get meetings, don't just track meetings with the right prospects, track second meetings. We actually have that built into our CRM. Was there a second meeting, which means it was the right person, you had the right conversation, and somebody actually asked for the second meeting. Also, the percent of prospects on the list, the opportunities that you're working, which are the right opportunities as defined by the leader of the company. We're looking to know that. The percent of sellers who are the right sellers in the right roles. You can apply that to managers too. The percent of new clients, which are the right clients. So I'm looking for the effectiveness, which is not only evaluating the seller, it's also evaluating the strategy. And if those numbers are off, you may not need to fire the seller. You may need to rethink what you're doing as the leader of the company.
Yeah, great point. Kathleen, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, I believe in clarity is kindness. So setting up really clear expectations out of the gate is so important. And I find so many founders, companies forget to do this. So we help companies set up rules of engagement documents. Like, this is what you're going to do every day and how you're going to do it. So what are the meaningful activities that get to the outcomes? Are they phone calls? Are they emails? And in this day and age, a lot of people are leaning on email communication versus the good old fashioned, hey, I want to have a conversation. Yep. I think people fall off their chair when I call them. They're like, wait a minute, you're calling me?
How does this work? Who's this?
Wait a minute, my phone rang. But it's so important to define what are the meaningful activities that will lead to the outcome because they don't assume. We know that definition. We want to make sure that people know how to get to success. So clarity's kind of set up the expectations, monitor them, and let them go if they can't achieve them.
Yeah.
It's got to be clear.
Yeah. It shouldn't be a surprise. If it's a surprise, then you did something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're going to hit time here. I want to make sure people have information they need to get a hold of folks. Kathleen, if people want to get a hold of you, learn more about what you do, what's the best way to get that information?
Well, you can always find me on LinkedIn, Kathleen Quinn Votaw. I'm an author and a speaker. And also you can find my company, Talent Trust, 1 T in the middle, at talenttrust.com. It's been a pleasure being with you, Bruce and Caryn.
Likewise. And Caryn, how do people get a hold of you?
So people can find me on LinkedIn, but I'm a Caryn, and the last name is Kopp. And you can also check out our website, which is coppconsultingusa.com, Kopp consultingusa.com. And if you want to talk about whether door opening, outsourcing, the executive level appointment setting can work for you, definitely let me know. And there's lots of resources on my site about hiring the right kinds of salespeople, especially if you're looking for people who do the door opening part of sales.
Perfect. If people want to get a hold of me, just bruce@eckfeldt.com is my email. Eckfeldt.com is my website, and obviously as LinkedIn as well. Kathleen, Caryn, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Always great to see you both.
Bye, everyone. Happy St. Patty's Day.